one of the big challenges that we've faced over the years when bringing new coaches into the mix was making sure that they understood our philosophy on human development, on physical development in its entirety. Now, it was a mistake from us because we would assume a lot, and much more so in the early days. We would bring great coaches from other realms, from other gyms. They would come in, they would do some things really well, but there would be certain things that they just were completely unaware of and sometimes misinformed about. And this, of course, forced us to reflect on how we were training those coaches and the time that we were spending with them and what we were taking them through. And this was where our coaches courses were born out of, our original internship, our now coaches intensive, and how that continues to evolve. So we've gotten a lot better at it, obviously, but it is still a challenge today. And talking with Pauly about it, we decided we would sort of break down a couple of episodes where we dive into this as a topic. And so today's discussion is around the specialist versus the generalist. And this goes back to what you are interested in and what you are doing in your training. And that is really central to a coach because obviously their experience is largely built upon what it is that they're into in their own training. And so we go into that and we talk about it from the point of view of being both a gym owner and how this would be relevant to the coaches or the people that come and work in your gym, but then also for you as a coach or someone who's venturing to become a coach, and how you might run into trouble in this realm, the pitfalls, but then also how you can make this something that's really enriching and how you can take your own experience in your training journey and turn that into a great strength in your coaching career. Before we jump into it, I wanted to let you know our final coaches intensive for this year is coming up on the 21st and the 22nd of October. This is the coaching course where we will teach you the Jungle Brothers, the original JB, now JA philosophy on physical development, what we believe builds strong, robust, durable humans. You will learn our foundational movement patterns, our basic approach to sales and marketing, and a deep dive into the art of coaching. It's a big 2 days. You're going to come out of it with a bunch of new perspectives on how to grow a business, how to grow a community, and how to develop strong, durable humans. If you are interested in that, you can click the link in the bio and enroll now. There is a 20% discount if you enroll before the 21st of September. So I suggest you get onto that and you use the code Let's Go to avail that 20% discount. I'll put all of that into the show notes. So all you got to do is just scroll down and the details are there. Click the link, do the thing. 21st, 22nd of October. I hope to see you there. Please enjoy today's episode.
No, yeah. As soon as I try to close my knees and try to come down to even 90 degrees, the shoulders just start closing.
Yeah.
Anything below that is impossible.
Same. Like Tuck's average, always been average for me. But that stretch that I did today, for me, I don't know, if we took that position and just cut it out, the position I was in, it probably wasn't an exceptional tuck. Or maybe it was. But I felt in the first two sets that it just kind of hurt my shoulders. Like it probably didn't quite hurt, but I just felt vulnerable trying to lift the hips. But then on the third set, I didn't feel that vulnerability. I felt strong enough that I'm like, keep pulling into the bar and then, oh shit, the hips lifted,
Yep. Yeah, I have a bit of pain in my shoulders
when
I'm doing that, when I have tension there.
It's funny, isn't it, that end range thing where it's like, it's the balance between exposure, strength, I don't know, strength, exposure, range, it's sort of all of that stuff. Welcome, bro. Good to have you back on the show.
Good to be here.
I was thinking about one of the dilemmas that we faced with the coaches that we want to indoctrinate, bring into our system, into our gyms. And looking back, I think one of the biggest challenges that we've faced is when you bring on, because our approach has always been diverse, and we've always appreciated diversity. So coaches from different backgrounds, different realms that can each bring their special thing to the gym. Now, I think that oftentimes that works really well. If you can foster it in the right way, there's great benefit to having that. But there are also downsides. And so I thought today would be a good chance for us to have a chat about this. Specialization versus generalization, or specialist versus the generalist, which is a topic I talk about in the Coaches Intensive, because I realize that this as a framework a lot of coaches, people in the fitness game don't necessarily understand these sort of labels and what they actually mean. And I think that that's kind of understanding that and being able to see the pros and the cons in both is what allows us to be successful with how we run things here. But if you're not aware of the cons, then it can be, or if you're not aware of the drawbacks, it can become a problem. So let me take you on a little tour.
Please explain.
So for those listening, the specialist is someone who is very good at one particular thing. Now, the greatest example of this is high-level athletes. So you look at elite-level athletes in any field, and they are exceptional at that sport. Of course, there are carryovers, i.e., if you are excellent at soccer, you're probably going to have some skills if I put you on the basketball court, because you do have footwork and coordination and timing and whatever. But really, basketballs are going to be the best at basketball. If you've played soccer all your life, that's what's going to be good at. If track and field athletics are your thing, if you're a 100-meter sprinter versus you're a 1600, you can be really good at one or the other. The 100-meter sprinter is not good at the 1600, right? So the nature of how we train the body generally for these sports leads towards specialization, right? Makes sense.
The marathon runner is a good one as well.
Yeah.
Just as an example.
As opposed to?
Any other, the weightlifter.
Exactly, right? Marathon runner's got the gas tank, the efficiency.
But not the body to lift over their body weight.
No.
Potentially.
No, they don't have the explosive type 2 muscle fibers. That's right. And so if we look at this in the training realm, you have areas of specialization within it. So you have people who love lifting heavy barbells. Powerlifters are a great example of that. You have people that love doing high intensity interval type stuff all the time. They're often like the folks you see down at the park just bashing it out at the boot camps, or like some CrossFitters, you'll see in that realm. You have people that love mobility and believe that salvation comes from exploring end ranges. You got jiu-jitsu people where it's all about jiu-jitsu and nothing else. And you can already identify that when you try to influence a specialist to come around to, hey, why don't you try some of this? There's usually resistance there. Hey, jiu-jitsu guy, why don't you try adding a bit of stretching and a bit of basic strength training into your routine? It's going to help. Like, I fucking hate the gym, Or, hey, man, powerlifter, like super strong. But I think maybe a bit of movement stuff and a bit of like focused mobility work is going to help to like unlock your body a bit and give you more range of motion and kind of round out your movement capacity. They're like, that's fucking hard and I'm not into it, right? So we end up kind of carving a trench, right? And it's not to say like, no judgment on this, right? I got no problem with if you're like, that's what I like and that's what I do and that's my solution to fitness, then go for it, right? So that's sort of one side of it, is that there's an attitude generally for a specialist whereby they're not interested in other things. There is also, and I kind of touched on that in those previous examples, there's a physical manifestation of that. The power lifter becomes extremely good with 2 feet on the ground, bilateral, pressing, deadlifting, whatever. Deadlifting, but they suck if you put them onto a single leg, or if you ask them to do something that requires plyometric ability, or if you try and teach them some jiu-jitsu or rock climbing or something, like they're just, they haven't trained those capacities, right? If you try and take the marathon running, like, hey, I need you, we're working on 1 RM cleans. I need you to be aggressive and powerful on this rep. You know, they're like, that's not a quality that they are versed in. So there's, you know, and so if we, you know, you simmer that down, there's like, okay, something specifically in the body that they don't have as a physical capacity, be it fast twitch muscle fibers or muscle mass or whatever, right?
Coordination of a different skill.
Exactly. So then you go to the generalist idea. And the generalist is the person that, and this is an ideal, right? This is where we're talking ideals right now. The generalist is the person that has a moderate level of ability across all or many of those capacities. So they're pretty good. They can lift some reasonably heavy stuff. They're not as strong as the powerlifter, but they're reasonably mobile, right? They look after their range of motion. They can get into some pretty deep positions and express that. They have levels of coordination that allow them to not feel like a total noob if they're doing their first jiu-jitsu class, or you want to take them, jump into a social soccer match, go rock climbing, right? They have a general capacity in all areas. I say it's an ideal because we're always going to have weak points, aren't we? Like there's always going to be stuff that you just don't do as well as something else that you do.
You know, I'm still trying to identify one of those in my own game, but
I mean, maybe you don't, right?
I trust you.
Yeah, maybe you've reached the promised land. So, you know, if we look at like CrossFit's a good example of a somewhat generalist approach. They call it GPP, General Physical Preparedness.
Yep.
That's the term they use in the States. They're strong. They can lift heavy shit. They're pretty fast. They're explosive. They got some good skills. They can get on the gymnastics rings. They can walk on their hands. They can fucking hit big conditioning workouts. You know, you watch the CrossFit Games, you're like, wow, these motherfuckers are well-rounded. Now, you could draw that out and go, all right, well, show me, like, juggle 5 balls or, you know, like, do some circus shit. Like, it's not just, you know, like, there's always an end point, right?
Yep.
But, you know, that's one sort of methodology where they've tried to reach some kind of general capacity across many different modes of physical capacity. I'm using a lot of words.
Talk to me.
Here at Jungle Brothers, Jungle Botany, our thing has always been to build generalists. And we kind of sum up our methodology into fight, lift, move. And we believe that if you can be proficient, right? Proficient kind of implies you don't have to be great at it. You don't have to love it. You just got to be like, okay.
Yep.
At fighting and, you know, take your pick, jiu-jitsu, Thai boxing, whatever. At lifting stuff, barbells, kettlebells, sandbags, and moving. Fuck around with handstands, get on the rings every now and again, do some crawl patterns, you know, stretch. That if you can kind of, you like that?
Yeah.
If you can sort of tick those 3 boxes, then you are building general capacity. Now, we've always also ventured to, well, before I go on, I think, does that kind of cover this specialist versus generalist thing?
Yeah. A couple of things, I guess, that's relevant to trying to build this out for people, if it's their first time hearing it, is like, why do we think that the generalist approach is, why do we practice it here? And that's because we train the general population, and most of 99% of the population is not a paid athlete. We're all workers, fathers, mothers, uni students, etc. And that type of training, generalist, is going to serve you better in your life for general everyday activities that you've got, because you don't have the time to recover, or you're not getting paid necessarily to go as intense down one track while sacrificing all the other shit that you probably and could be doing, because variety is what gives you health. If we talk about real health, it's not like being the fittest person in one modality. Oh, that guy's fucking healthy as. To us, it's that it's that whole scope. So there's that. And what was the other thing I was going to mention? can't remember right now. Come back to me later.
Yeah, great point. Maybe folks don't look at this, but the elite athlete has a short lifespan, as in they're usually only an elite athlete for, a decade. And it's usually sometime around their late 20s, maybe late 30s or mid 30s, depending on what sport they're playing, whereby they can no longer perform at that level. And then usually that's preceded by a period of chronic injuries as a result of their high performance. You look at any, rugby league, rugby union player, knees, backs, shoulders, spines.
Not even at a pro level.
No, club level, right?
Yeah.
Like look at all the people we played soccer with, right?
Yeah.
I see, 3 guys I know that are still standing from that, but the majority of them, my knee I fucking buckled my knee too many times and can't afford to take time off, got kids and a family now. But everything, the person that's really into barbell work, they're usually copping damage as a result of that. That training takes a toll on the body. And when you train one thing to that degree, when you carve that trench to that depth, you pay a price. You sacrifice health in order to reach greatness in that arena. And so, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. Like that is what jiu-jitsu is. Jiu-jitsu is a bunch of people on the mats willingly destroying their body because it's so fun, and you're just like, I'm going to ignore this for as long as I can because it's so much fun. And I will just do, the bare essentials to get by for as long as possible, which is usually like, I don't know, you go see a physio every few months or take some pain, you just avoid the pain.
Yeah.
The rare few will actually do the work to, mitigate this damage. But yeah, so it doesn't make sense for a regular person to go and jump into this specialist mindset and cop aforementioned damage.
I remember the second point that I was going to kind of bring in just to bring some more understanding to it. And it's more to like, in the generalist space, how do we organize and see, we as in jungle, how do we organize and see what constitutes like our training? And I guess I just wanted to just quickly anchor that towards the ancient man or woman. And that's why I say when you're talking about the CrossFit and they do a really good job of, cross modalities in their training, but we very clearly have the fight aspect. And I guess without going too deeply into it now, we looking at what we were designed to do and where we evolved out of, and looked at that from that kind of anthropological kind of perspective. And that's how we've come up, because that's what we did. We used to hunt for food, gather food. We had to shift and move camps, and we had to defend ourselves or attack warring tribes, etc. So that's that playing and that interaction and that fighting part, which I think, deep down everyone should like explore, because it's kind of built into a lot of other aspects of being a human being, personal development, emotionally and mentally and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, I think the significance of the reward systems that have evolved around fulfilling those activities can't be overstated as well.
Yes, yep.
Like say talking with Sam this morning, right? Come from a CrossFit background.
Oh, yes.
We're talking about how CrossFit is, for the standard CrossFit thing, is a bunch of people going through an agonizing workout, a collective struggle that everyone finishes, nobody died, and the elation that comes from that is huge. You're like, how fucking good was that? Mm-hmm. You're like, wow, we all died for an hour and we made it out. Let's go get a coffee. And that collective struggle, I think that collective struggle is a part of any like solid workout. Yeah. Be it a heavy lift class or an S&M or, a fight like a sparring session. You go through that struggle with people, and then that tightens your bonds. And I believe that's the kind of reward systems that are tied up in that, because we could boil it down to like hard work.
Yeah.
And when you do hard work with other people, your genes tell you that's what I need you to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because it's whatever. It's going and hunting food or, fighting for the tribe or whatever it is.
Yep.
at its most basic level, it makes you feel good, doesn't it? Like, you know, you can be in a state of mild sort of whatever, angst. I'm not going to say, oh, like you can feel a bit down, and then you go and do a hard workout and you instantly feel better. So in any case, for us, it's really important, right? This generalist approach. Now, we see that as the collection of those things. And, you know, whatever, like we've sort of identified that with our gyms, the fight component of Fight Lift Move is not going to be necessarily a part of every gym owner's training history. Mm-hmm. And we believe that there's nothing worse than somebody who doesn't know anything about fight training trying to teach others how to do fight training.
It's painful.
Yeah, so, yeah, like that's boxer size, right? You go and get a two-day certificate, and you can like whatever do boxing with people. So do boxing, yeah. The double uppercuts, the best one, or the double overhead punch. That's like, all right, well, that part is kind of conditional to the individual's journey. You know, that's something that takes time, and that the coach or the gym owner has to have lived and had, you know, they've got to have lived that experience for a period of time. If they don't have that, that's fine. The other side of it is like the strength and the movement. And I think that we go back to what our, before we came up with the Fight Lift Move piece, which was really for us in our first gym, this gym, strength and movement was the original thing. And I think that is, I see the method as being anchored to that primarily, right? Mm-hmm. And it's strength and movement and everything that's encompassed in that. So you're like, well, that's everything, right? Like
you're like, yep,
all there.
Get working.
Exactly. Yeah. But you can also teach that. I can take some PT and be like, this is the 100 important strength exercises I think you should know. This is 50 movement drills that I think you should know. Here are a collection of perspectives that I think you should consider in regards to physical development. And that's like, okay, now you're starting to round out the picture for that person, giving them like a workable methodology. So one of the tricky parts we've had, right, in our gym is that we have these areas of specialization, Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, weightlifting, gymnastics. We've brought in coaches who are specialists in those fields, right? You are a jiu-jitsu guy, great, teach the jiu-jitsu thing. You are a flexibility person, great, teach a stretch class. Now, usually, like it actually works out really well often, but when it doesn't work out well versus when it does, is when that coach can understand the bigger picture and that, hey, the thing that I'm into and the thing that I teach is part of this whole. It is not the whole, it is a part of it. And I see and value the importance of all the other parts. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't necessarily express all those other parts to the same degree. They're still going to be the specialist, but they go, yeah, okay, that's what I'm into, but that's me, and I'm a bit of a fanatic about this shit. I've dedicated my career to it. Whereas I see the relevance of doing a little bit of all of these things for the people here. And that, you know, and you see those coaches who become influenced by that. You know, you see like the weightlifting coach that you see them doing a bit of bodyweight training. And you know they don't like love it as much as the barbell, but they're like, nah, it's good for me, and I value that philosophy, you know. Or you see the stretch coach that's like, I'm doing some conditioning work. Yeah. You know, you're like, fucking awesome. That is so counter to where you normally spend your time. You see that they've been influenced by that philosophy. And I think it's just an important observation to make, because a specialist is an amazing asset to have as a coach. But when they're so indoctrinated in their style of training that they cannot value any other style of training, and they can't see that their thing is just one little piece of the pie, I think that, I'm not trying to use really nasty words, but it's almost toxic in the environment. Yeah. Because they just then don't have sort of understanding or respect for the other things. Yes, and these are the people that are coaching and influencing the people in your gym.
Absolutely. And like if I can think of times where it's happened in our business, you know, it's often not that they're doing it consciously. But as we know, like cultures in gyms and the way that we influence our members in our gyms, it kind of happens organically by what they see people doing and how they spend their time. So yeah, absolutely, it becomes tricky at that point.
I feel the greatest, like, so chatting with the young fella this morning, I feel the greatest, like, experience for a coach to have in regards to training and building a well-rounded perspective of physical development is going through different phases of these training modes. Like, when I look back at what I went through, the 2 years that I was like deep in the calisthenics realm was awesome. At the time, I thought, pull-ups and dips were all that mattered, and it was all about doing more reps. I was just so indoctrinated into calisthenics. But it was awesome because I learned, I lived that experience. I learned what that was like. I felt what it was like on my body. I saw how it changed my body, the strengths that it gave me, the weaknesses that it gave me, the perspectives of the people in that culture, what they valued, what they totally were blind to. Not all of that learning came at the time. A lot of it came retroactively, say, when I then jumped in and got really into CrossFit for a while. And that was, I don't know, a couple of years. And I was deep in that. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm comparing the calisthenics thing to that. And on the background of all that, I'm doing jiu-jitsu. And so I'm gaining those perspectives and seeing what they're blind to. And then obviously I got deep in the movement thing. Like, I see those as like sort of key chapters in my physical development, that by the time I got to a point where I was running a gym, I had all of that in my past, and I had a really well-rounded understanding of things. Not everyone has the benefit to do that, right? Like, maybe you start the gym younger or whatever, but I think that living those things for a period, whatever you can allow, and building that well-rounded perspective on physical development is like, I think it's everything when it comes to being a coach that people can trust, because you kind of coming to the job with, you have wisdom around it because you understand those modalities, you understand the different perspectives, and also allows you to be in a position to innovate and come up with new things, because you don't have those restrictions that are placed on you when you are stuck in one strict dogma.
Yeah, you can see a problem and fix it with a variety of tools. Yeah, I'm thankful for that all the time. If I look at my journey, I came in much later on the shoulders of all the stuff that you guys in T had already experienced. So I was like the modern mixed martial artist who didn't come from one practice and then had to tack on the others. I came in and kind of did all of them. I did have a bit of a background in some other things.
Yeah.
But I came in at the head of that. And the learning journey for me was different. But I did have to do time in each one of those modalities at some point, some more than others, etc. But when it comes to coaching people, I'm so grateful that I can, and it's only a rare time that I recognize that holy shit, like I just gave that person that thing, or they asked me for something and I could meet them with it because I had that feather in my hat sort of thing, or that tool in my toolbox. I think it's really important because, what's the hammer and nail thing? If you've got a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail type of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for, meeting people's needs and serving people inside of your gym and your business.
Yeah, man. And I'm trying to think of like the practical kind of takeaways for this for the listeners is like, well, if you're a gym owner and you've got coaches in your gym and you're looking at hiring people or whatever, you need those coaches to understand this philosophy and this viewpoint of things, assuming you have a diverse view like ours. You need them to share that too. So you have to make sure that they are across that. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to that you have to squash their area of specialization. That is their strength, and that's what they should be celebrating that, and that's what they should be known for in your place. But you also need to make sure that they are on board with dipping their toes into a little bit of the other areas that they might have been, that they are less familiar with. So whatever that is, whether it's, hey, I want you to come and do some of these classes regularly, just so you're getting that. Or I want you to start focusing on a bit of this in your training, bringing them around to that way of thinking so that, they get it. If you are a coach, same goes. But I think like putting yourself into those situations to have those experiences. So if you're like, oh yeah, shit, all of my training does really look like that. How can I start to get a bit of that? Oh, fuck it. I'll start training with my mate who just loves heavy lifting, and I'll do a program with them for 6 months. Let's explore that. That'd be fun. Or, hey, I'm going to go do some PT sessions with that flexibility coach, and I'm going to learn that. I'm going to join that gym that's totally different to, the stuff I know. Because that will make you more well-rounded across the board. And in time, I think that that's just going to make you more wise when it comes to this coaching gig.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, fam.
Thanks, Joey.
Thanks, bruh. See you next time.
See you.